Okay. Sorry. Are we live, guys? Can we tell? Preview. It says preview. It's preparing. Sorry, I think it's.
Can you pull it up on your phone? I'm gonna look on my phone.
Oh, no, I have to add a title. Okay. My bad. My bad, y'all. We're almost there.
Oh, there we are.
There we are. We're live. Okay. Hello, Facebook friends and family. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am here with Kalitha Williams of Policy Matters Ohio. I'm Jasmine Ayres with Policy Matters Ohio. And also we have a wonderful guest, Roxy Caines from the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, who oversees their EITC work and their Get It Back campaign. And today we want to talk to you about the federal stimulus. We want to make sure that we're answering your questions, that you are getting the money that you deserve, that you worked hard for. And so we will sort of be dispelling any myths, letting you know where you can go to do this, where you can access more information. And these wonderful women are going to guide us through that today. So I think we just sort of want to start with the basics, like what is the federal stimulus payment? Where did this come from?
Sure, so I can answer that. The federal stimulus payment, which the official name is Economic Impact Payment, is a key provision of the CARES Act. And this is legislation that was passed to help reduce the financial burden of COVID-19. And the payments are available both to individuals and to families.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add that right now this is the stimulus payments are just a one-time payment. I know there have been lots of discussions and policymakers talking about additional payments, but right now these are just one-time payments.
Thank you so much. So how much are people supposed to get, and will they have to pay taxes on the stimulus check that they're getting from the government?
So yeah, that's a two-part question. So I'll try to answer the second one first because that's the easiest, I think. So these payments are considered advanced tax credits that for 2020. They are not going to be counted as income in the next tax filing season, and they are not taxable. And I think that's important to know because I've seen a lot of chatter on social media where people have been saying that they don't want the payments because they think they're loans for their refund for next year. But that is not the case. It is essentially a tax credit, a fully refundable tax credit for the next tax season that they're making available now. And then in terms of how much do people get, well, that depends. So it depends on what your adjusted gross income is. It depends on whether or not you're claiming dependents. So for individuals, if you have adjusted gross income of under $75,000, the maximum credit is, you'll get $1,200. If your income is higher than that, between 75,000 and I believe 150,000, you will qualify for a lower stimulus check, and it'll be based on your income. But if you're an individual and you earn $99,000 a year plus, you will not qualify for a stimulus check. Your earnings are considered too high. Those income limits are different if you file head of household, and some people can file head of household. That income limit is $112,500. If you're head of household, to get $1,200. If you're between $112,500 and $136,500, you'll qualify for a lower stimulus payment, and it'll depend on your income. If you are head of household and you earn over $136,500, you will not qualify because your earnings are considered too high. And then for married couples, that maximum amount to get $2,400 is I got lost. Is $150,000, is under $150,000. And then if you earn between $150,000 and $198,000, you'll receive a reduced stimulus payment. And then if you earn $198,000 a year or more, you will not qualify. And then if you have a dependent child who is under the age of 17, you can claim an additional benefit of $500 for each child. The child has to somehow be related to you by blood, by marriage, or through adoption. I hope, the challenges with a lot of this, there are ranges, and it depends on this, and it depends on that. Policy Matters Ohio, we put together a fact sheet, and the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, Roxy, Caines, they also put together a fact sheet. And hopefully that information, those different fact sheets are going to be posted in the comments section. So just in case you're like, well, you have a very specific question that we're not able to answer, you will be able to refer to our different fact sheets.
Absolutely. We will definitely sort of leave a list of resources for folks to make sure that they get all this information. I know a lot of us graduated from school a long time ago, and so I don't expect us to be there with the notebook, taking the notes and drawing the lines and stuff like that. So thank you very much for this information. So can you talk a little bit about college students? I know that there has been a good deal of conversation around, are they eligible? Are they not eligible? What happens when their parents claim them? What happens when they're 17 years old? And it's a little tricky to sort of navigate that space. I was wondering if you all could answer some questions on college students.
Sure. So in addition to the income guidelines that Kalitha went over, one of the requirements is that if you're claiming a child, they have to be what's considered a qualifying child. And one of the considerations for that is that a qualifying child is your dependent. If someone is claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return, they cannot get the payment for themselves. So for college students that are claimed as a dependent on their parents' tax return, unfortunately, they would not be eligible for the payment. For other college students who are maybe living and working independently and are not claimed on someone else's return, then they may be able to get the payment, and the same guidelines would apply. And in addition to the income maximums that Kalitha shared, there isn't necessarily an income minimum. So if someone doesn't have earnings, if they meet the other eligibility requirements, then they can get the payment.
Absolutely. That college issue is just something we've been hearing from a lot of people. about just dependents, not even just college students, but also people who may be caring for an elderly or disabled loved one. And we have fielded calls from low-income families taking care of, elderly or disabled family members. And unfortunately, not only will that individual, if they are claiming them as a dependent, that loved one will not get their own stimulus check, but the people who were claiming them and supporting them will not get an additional benefit for taking care of them as well. So the only dependents who are qualifying for additional support are children who are under 17.
Thank you for that. We actually have a question sort of in that same vein. Someone said that their brother is on SSD, Social Security Disability, and has not received a stimulus check. Besides calling their bank, is there another way to check their status to see, did I apply correctly? Is it coming? Where do I go to ask these questions?
Yeah, I would recommend that they go to the Get My Payment tool on the IRS's website, and that should let them know where they are in terms of getting their payment. I think one of the links we provided for the chat feature includes the IRS stimulus payment website, and it has a link to the Get My Payment tool. Without knowing all the details about that person, but people who are claiming Social Security, they will not have to do anything additional to file to get their payment, which is great. But if the person typically gets their payment by check, then that's probably how they're trying to send their payment. And, all of us who are doing this work, we are highly encouraging people to utilize the IRS tools to get their payment by direct deposit. So if this person typically gets their Social Security check by a check, they should definitely go to the Get My Payment tool and utilize it so that they can get it direct deposited, because the IRS is anticipating that it'll take several weeks, potentially months, for people to get paper checks.
I'd like to add on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, so the Get My Payment tool is really great for someone to be able to track the status of their payment, where it is in the queue to be delivered, or if it's already been delivered, and the method that it will be delivered. For people receiving Social Security benefits, the payment will be delivered in the way that they get the benefits. So if they're getting their benefits by check, they cannot change their information on Get My Payment to get direct deposit. It's already set to be delivered by check.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And so I think that sort of leads us to what do you need to do to be eligible to get this money? Like filing taxes, and like what are the key things that need to be done for you to be able to receive this money?
Yeah, so people who receive one of the federal benefit programs, Social Security, retirement or disability, veterans benefits, retirement, railroad retirement benefits, Veterans Affairs benefits, and supplemental security income, SSI, they will receive, they don't have to do anything. They will receive their benefits. Now, there is a caveat. If you receive SSI or Veterans Affairs benefits, and you need to claim a dependent who is under 17 years old, actually today is the deadline for you to file to claim that dependent so that you will receive that additional benefit this year. And you have to do that at the non-filer portal. which should be linked in the links we're providing. If you do it after today, unfortunately, you will receive your stimulus check for yourself or you and your spouse, but you will not be able to claim the dependent until you file next year. So that's a group of people. There are a group of people who may not, they're not required to file their taxes. And this can include people who have no income or very low income. I think the threshold is that your income cannot exceed $12,200 for an individual or $24,400 for a married couple. And this could include people who receive public benefits like Medicaid, TANF, and SNAP. For them to receive the stimulus payment, they should use the IRS non-filer portal. And there have been reports that people have been having challenges with that. But I encourage people to continue to try to use that portal because it was created so that this group of people wouldn't have to file a full tax return. But if your income exceeds those thresholds, you would be required to file your taxes. So if you file taxes already, you should be fine. If you haven't filed taxes this year, the IRS will go back and look at your 2018 tax return to determine your eligibility. If you haven't filed 2018 or 2019, we encourage you to file a 2019 return. And the IRS has online tools for people to file their taxes online. And you really need to file your taxes online if you are required to file taxes. Because the IRS is not accepting, well, the IRS is not reviewing or processing paper forms. So if you're sending a paper form, I understand they're being put in storage to be looked at later. So make sure, I'm laughing, I'm looking at Jasmine, she's like, oh no, yes. So
wow.
Like,
we'll get to it later. Like they don't need their money.
Well, in their effort to get these payments out as soon as possible, they're really encouraging everybody as much as possible to use these online tools. But the IRS on their website that is linked, they have provided a variety of tools and recommended websites where people can file their taxes online.
Awesome. Thank you for that information.
Roxy, did you want to add anything?
Yes.
You're like tag teaming.
Yes, so just to highlight a few specific ways to file taxes online if someone needs to file a tax return and cannot use the non-filer portal. IRS Free File is one link that you'll find, and there are many different software companies that provide their software for free for people to use. myfreetaxes.com is another platform that's available. Both of these platforms have the ability to file both federal and state returns. With My Free Taxes, all federal and state returns are free if you meet the user eligibility guidelines. For free IRS Free File, some of the platforms will do certain states for free and charge for others, so it's necessary to just really read the fine print carefully. And another option for virtual help is that there is a partnership between Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, also known as VITA, programs, which is an IRS-sponsored program, and Code for America. They have partnered to develop a way for people to get help filing their taxes remotely. And their website is getyourrefund.org. And if you go through that site, you can be connected to someone who not only can help you file a 2019 return, they can also help you file up to 3 previous year returns if you need to do that.
Absolutely. And I just want to add, the IRS and the state of Ohio have extended our tax filing deadline to July 15th. So I know a lot of people are really just focused on these payments, but as Roxy knows, there may be people who qualify for other tax credits as well, like the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. So there may be additional benefit for people to go back and file their taxes as well.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for that information. And I think folks who sort of regularly participate in sort of like the American financial institutions can get this and will be okay. Like you've already had your direct deposit show up. But if you are not actively with a bank and you do not have direct deposit, what are the ways in which you can sort of access this money? Are there banks that are willing to cash these checks for people? Are there any sort of like online tools for people to be able to get their money? If you all could share a little bit of that, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So the short answer is all of the above. So just to provide a bit more detail, absolutely direct deposit is going to be the fastest way for someone to get their payment. Understandably, everyone doesn't already have a bank account. There are ways to establish a bank account online and a bank account that is aligned with the life and the needs of many people that don't require a lot of background checks and don't have a lot of fees. And Bank On has a list of banks that provide these bank accounts. They meet national standards that allow people to set up a bank account. So that's a link that can be added to the chat and the resources shared later on. Another option for direct deposit is a prepaid debit card. And there are many different prepaid debit cards on the market. So this is an area where some careful screening will be necessary. Some of them are better than others. Some have lower fees than others. So that is another option. And additionally, Cash App has a way that you can get a routing number and an account number so that you can receive direct deposit for your economic impact payment. And they have a whole section that describes how to do that and what it is. And then outside of those options, if someone just doesn't want to do those things or something is not feasible, then they can still get the payment and just have to wait for the paper check.
Yeah. And I just want to speak to check cashing. The Ohio Bankers League, which is the trade association of the banks in Ohio, and we provide a link to their site in our fact sheet. They have agreed to share all of their members, and there are quite a few that will be offering free check cashing services to people around the state who want to cash their federal stimulus check at no charge. So pull up our fact sheet, and we have a direct link to their website where they are listing those banks. I know there have already been announcements about national banks like I think Wells Fargo and Bank of America who have agreed to cash these checks. Many of those banks are not in Ohio, though. Interestingly enough, we don't have a lot of those branches in Ohio. But I've heard so far that Huntington Bank, which is a large regional bank in Ohio, and there are other banks listed at the website linked in our fact sheet who will definitely have agreed to cash these checks at no charge.
Oh, I think you went silent on that last sentence, Kalitha, if you want to
I was just sharing that the link to the Ohio Banker League's website where they are posting all of the banks that will cash stimulus checks at no charge is located in the Policy Matters Ohio Federal Stimulus Fact Sheet.
Awesome, thank you. And I just posted that in the chat, so folks can click on that if they want more information. So is there, I'm trying to look through our list. Is there anything that I'm missing? Are there any other really important facts that the people need to know in order to have access to this stimulus? And then also, sort of while we're wrapping up, if you could address, like, I think there's sometimes a stigma around when people receive money from the government. And I think it's important to, like, address that and address that, like, this virus was not people's fault. And so, like, it is the job and the role of the government to support us. So if you all have any sort of thoughts or comments on that.
Yes, I'd like to start with just important information for people to know. One of the aspects to be able to claim the payments is that you must have a Social Security number. And for people who are married, if one spouse has a Social Security number and the other person does not, then instead, and they're married filing jointly, then they will not get the payment. If they choose to file separately, then the person with the Social Security number would get the payment. And if it's a family where children have individual taxpayer identification numbers, ITINs, and they don't have Social Security numbers, then the family would not get the additional $500 for those children. So I want to make sure that people know, as they're thinking about eligibility, that the Social Security number is part of it. And Jasmine, yes, as you mentioned, this money that's being provided is available because so many people's lives have been impacted and changed drastically, and this financial support is needed and necessary. And this is just one aspect of help. There's a lot more help that's available. There's a lot more help that's needed. And if it's available and someone's eligible, then they should absolutely feel like they can get the money.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to add one caveat to families. If you're married and one spouse is in the military and one doesn't have a eligible Social Security number, they will qualify for payment. So that's just one caveat. But I also want to weigh in on the I-10 issue. I mean, these are families who are paying billions of dollars in payroll taxes, and they pay federal income taxes, and unfortunately they have been excluded for a program that's supposed to help families and help individuals weather this financial and health crisis. And unfortunately, they have been left behind. This program, is not dissimilar to other programs we have in this country where we're trying to provide financial relief to people in need. We are providing disaster support, the Paycheck Protection Program for businesses. And we can't just focus on the business community and overlook the everyday people in our communities who are in need. While, we've already seen 2 rounds so far of the Paycheck Protection Program, so far this is the only program in process. This is considered a one-time payment. So people shouldn't feel that, they're taking, this is welfare and, they're taking advantage of the system. This program was put in place to help families in need. And we shouldn't be shy about being thoughtful if we need to influx more money and support to people around the country who may continue to be in need. So I would say that, people should take this money and use it the best way they can to take care of themselves
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please go ahead, Roxy.
Okay, I just want to share one more thing that I think is really important for people to know. So we hear about this money being referred to in many different ways: stimulus checks, recovery rebates, stimulus money, all of these things. And again, the official name that the IRS is using is economic impact payment. The reason why this is so important is that there are people who are running scams and trying to prey on people's financial needs and desires, and encouraging people to share their personal information, whether it's a bank account or their social security numbers online, whether it's sharing posts through social media or sending people text messages or emails. Please know that the IRS will not communicate with you on any of these platforms. Also, if you see something where someone is saying, oh, you just need to pay a small processing fee and I can get you your payment faster, know that that is a scam. The fastest way to get your payment is through direct deposit. And the way that you get your payment is either filing a tax return if you need to, or you can use the IRS non-filer portal.
All right. Thank you so much. Kalitha, I know you had something else you wanted to add.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that, our Ohio audience knows that in the state of Ohio, we have a statute that protects your stimulus payment from debt collection. In Ohio, debt collectors are not allowed to seize your payment to pay back past debts. And if that has happened to anyone already, please call the Ohio Attorney General. He issued a notice to make sure that debt collectors know that they cannot seize these payments. But if it's already happened to people, obviously millions of people have already received their payments, please report it to the Ohio Attorney General's office so that they can provide you with relief.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. These payments are vitally important to families, but also people are job creators, right? When I go to the grocery store and I buy food for my family, I am therefore putting money into a system that is allowing someone to have a job. And so a lot of times we think of job creators as these giant corporations, but everyday people who are receiving this money and using it to buy things for their families, they bought a new hot water heater, or whatever people are using these things on, it's creating jobs and it's putting money back into the economy. And that's why this stuff is so vitally important. So thank you all so much for joining us. If you don't have any sort of parting words, we're gonna wrap it up, and then we'll continue to add links into this feed to make sure that folks have all of the information that they need. So any last words from you all before we go?
Well, I thank everyone for tuning in, and I hope that you share what you've learned, and especially for people who maybe don't have internet access or people who just aren't online, please check on them and share information so that we can help make sure that people get the money that they deserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to encourage people, if you had a question you didn't feel comfortable answering or asking during this session, please take advantage of the resources and materials. Roxy, Caines at CBPP, they have the Get It Back tool resources for people in the community. We also have a fact sheet, and lots of resources were shared. Please take a closer look at them and see if they can be helpful to you and other people in your family and your community.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And like we mentioned, please pass this information on. We look forward to seeing you all again. Have a great day.